Hello and welcome to Sunflower Philosophy Tarot. My name is Juliana, and today I have a timeless collective reading in which we'll just be discussing whatever messages want to come up based on the cards that I've pre-selected here and any other cards that I pulled during this reading. So I just felt like getting into something that we can all relate to at this time. So instead of doing a pick a card, I just wanted to do something for everyone. Anyone who clicks on this can just trust that whomever else is watching this with them, you can all relate in some way to this message, and we can really focus on the ways that we're more similar than different at this time. So I want to also let you know that I am not going to be doing a brief centering exercise at the beginning of this video. I'd like to just get right into the message. And so for those of you who are new here, I do usually do a centering exercise in which we kind of do a brief little meditation together to get in touch with our intuition. So if you would like to do something like that before getting into the messages, feel free to pause the video and just sit with yourself and set an intention to get in touch with your intuition. But if you don't want to do that, or if you've already done that and you're ready to get into it, let's get into the messages right off the bat. So I already pre-pulled these two cards here, so I'll flip them over and then we'll just get right into it. So today, let's see what we're working with. We have the Five of Discs, or Five of Pentacles. And we have, I already knew what these cards were, so I know that I need to cover this one up. We have the Fool. And this is the Mary L. Tarot deck, in case anyone is wondering. And it's a really cool one. I really love it, but there is some nudity, so often I do have to cover up aspects of the cards for YouTube's sake. So we have the Fool and the Five of Pentacles. And one thing that really draws my eye to this particular Five of Pentacles is that it's not at all like the Rider-Waite-Smith one where you see two people walking in the snow together and they seem to be struggling and maybe lacking in some resources. So it can be about scarcity in the physical realm. It can be about scarcity when it comes to money and finances. And it can be about codependency. Sometimes it can be about not seeing help that's available to you. But in this deck in particular, it feels very different. If you can see, it shows this person without any clothes on who's looking into this window into their heart space. And you might not be able to see it, but in their heart space, there's this landscape in there. There's a whole landscape inside of them. And to me, this card really speaks of inner resources. So rather than emphasizing the scarcity on the physical level, like, you know, this person isn't wearing any clothes, so maybe this person doesn't have a lot of resources outside of themselves. Maybe they don't have a lot of money or a home or anything like that, right? But it's more emphasizing this person's inner resources, what they have within. And finding a sense of inner peace. To me, that's a very serene landscape within them. So there's a sense of inner peace, inner security, inner calm. So that's something that's really emphasized by this particular Five of Discs, and it's very unique to this deck as far as I've come across. I mean, there's many decks out there, so I have not seen the Five of Pentacles on all decks. But and then we have the Fool right next to it. So the Fool, you are probably familiar with if you've watched a lot of these readings, is the first card in the tarot deck. It's the first major arcana. It's the Zero card. It's the infant, the child of the deck in some ways, because the Fool represents the start of a journey, innocence. The Fool's typically depicted as about to walk off a cliff because they're looking up at a butterfly, and they're not noticing any pitfalls ahead of them. And that's the great thing about the Fool, is that the Fool can throw himself or themselves directly into a new adventure without contemplating or considering the potential dangers of it. And while that could be something that is a hindrance, that can also be a help, because they're not discouraged from starting by projecting any fears into the future. They're simply just going for it, and they'll meet whatever they meet along the way. And they're not in their head about anything that could go wrong, basically, before they start. So taken together, this is a really interesting message, because we are definitely talking today about validation and about needing external validation versus being able to feel valid and secure within ourselves. And so I'm really seeing this as a representation of almost like what is going on inside of the Fool that allows them to forge ahead with such innocence and such bravery and enthusiasm into a new adventure that they had never experienced before, that they might be very inexperienced in. And what gives them the audacity, basically? Like, what gives the Fool the audacity to just think that they can just do something without someone else telling them, yeah, you can go do that thing. You'd be great at it. Yeah, your success is assured. Yeah, if you do that thing, you're going to be set for life and you're going to make a lot of money and you're going to be safe. Yeah, if you do that thing, people are going to love you and no one's ever going to say a bad word about you, right? What makes the Fool feel like he can just do whatever he wants, basically? I think I'll probably just use differing gender pronouns for the Fool throughout this, so hopefully that doesn't get confusing, but like, the Fool, especially in this deck with the mask and everything, I feel like they could go either way. But I also like, in particular, this deck's Fool because the symbolism of the monarch butterfly all over this card, to me, speaks of a Fool who's actually not all that new to adventure or to pitfalls of life. The Fool has already been through a transformation. This Fool has been through the cocoon phase and has emerged into something new. And so it kind of gives me the feeling of like, the Fool goes through the whole journey of the major arcana and then reaches the end of that journey at the world. That cycle closes and then goes back to the Fool and starts the new cycle over again, having gained all of the wisdom that they've already gained on their journey, that they can now apply to their new journey, but they're still new to whatever it is that they're starting in their next cycle, right? So the Fool is not necessarily completely inexperienced. The Fool is not without a sense of knowledge or experience, but rather this Fool is starting out their journey or their new journey with a new set of eyes. This Fool is choosing to say, well, I can take the wisdom from what I've learned, but I can leave space and room for all that which I have not learned yet, and all the possibilities that could occur if I take this next step. So the Fool is taking wisdom from their past, but they're not projecting that past into their future. They are starting a new adventure, and they are leaving room for this adventure to be brand new. So it's giving the feeling of, giving the example of, for example, someone who went through a relationship with someone and then that relationship ended. So they might have learned a lot about themselves, they might have learned a lot about other people through that relationship, and there might be part of that process of learning where there's a little bit of like, okay, so maybe I shouldn't do this or I shouldn't do that, or oh, here are some things I can heal within myself, here are some things that worked, here are some things that didn't work. And there could be some pain and difficulty within the Fool that they need to heal after the ending of this relationship, right? There might be some bitterness, some resentment, some grief, some insecurities as well that could have been sparked up by this relationship and how it ended. But if the Fool takes some time to go within, to explore how the landscape has changed after this experience, to say, okay, well, what did I learn? And what's the truth here? And what are my emotions about the situation telling me? How can I heal? How can I be with myself? How can I learn more about what I truly need and want? And also how I can more readily invite other people into my experience? How can I experience a healthier dynamic in the future? How did the relationship in the past end? Why did it end? Was it something that went wrong on my side, on their side, on both of our sides? Was it just a basic incompatibility? And the Fool can pick and choose what they want to take from that experience that feels inside, feels the most true and right for them. And there might be a temptation to look at other people who have also gone through a similar situation, or who simply are offering advice about similar situations, and look to them for guidance and for them to tell you how you are supposed to feel about the situation, right? Like in that situation, if you're especially feeling really hurt or vulnerable, it might be really easy to look to someone else and say, how should I feel? Tell me how to feel. Tell me what to do. Tell me how to move forward from this, right? But the important thing is that while you're in this process of healing and this process of self-reflection, you have discernment with the information that you're taking in, and you pay attention to deep within what resonates as true. And how you'll know that is that even if it's a difficult truth, or even if it's something that your mind doesn't really want to accept, something within you will feel at peace with it. And it might take some time to get to that place where you can feel what brings you that inner knowing, what actually sounds and feels true to you, because you might have to work through some emotion first to uncover and uncloud basically your inner landscape, right? Like there might be some storm clouds that need to pass through. There might be a little hurricane going on in there, right? That's gotta run its course, right? The weather has to run its course. But once it does, and your landscape is more serene, more peaceful, the advice and the perspectives that are most true to you will resonate more deeply than those that are not. And you will be able to start to sort through, okay, that person's experience has some wisdom for me, but that person's experience, maybe not at this time. And even better, if you can look within yourself and turn away from external influences for a little while, you might find that you already know what's true for you in the situation, and you already know how to move forward in a way that leaves you at peace with what happened and ready to take anything that you learned that feels true to you, that feels like wisdom, into a new situation with someone new. I'm using the relationship example, but of course this can apply to anything. So then this fool here, having cleared his internal landscape, having allowed the storms to pass through, having connected with the inner part of himself that is secure and does not need doesn't need other people to validate his own story, moves into a place where he's ready to jump off the cliff once more, open to the idea that the experience this time will be different, but there might be elements of the past wisdom that he has gained that will be helpful on this leg of the journey. And the past experience and wisdom that he's gained might also shape this journey in a new way in and of itself. Like that might be part of what leads the experience to being something new, something brand new, something completely different than what came before. So I hope you're following so far. Because this is great, because you know what? There is so much stuff out there. If you have internet access, then you are being bombarded with take after take, thumbnail after thumbnail, post after post of people who claim to have answers for your situation. And the thing of it is, not everyone can have the answer that you need. Not everyone can have the answer that you're looking for. It can be really easy to get caught up in whatever headline you see. And it can be really easy to take in information without thinking about it. And if you come across a lot of the people saying the same thing over and over again, to start to take that on as your truth, whether or not it actually is, and whether or not it actually aligns, which in the long run will probably cause more inner turmoil than not, right? And so your goal, your prerogative, is to honestly move towards whatever guidance or truths outside of you lead to more inner peace inside of you, right? Like what creates peace? What brings you peace? I feel like that's what we're really focusing on here today is attuning to that guidance, attuning to peace, attuning to inner peace. Yeah. And realizing that it's not about getting someone else to validate the story that your ego wants to tell, right? Because there's always a story that we want to tell, and a lot of times that story is one of bitterness and regret And it's anything that we just incessantly say over and over and over and over again with no resolution. And it's usually linked to some kind of pain. And that's an unresolved loop that we're kind of in. And it's okay to be in those unresolved loops for a time, right? It's okay. It does, it'll take as long as it takes for you to process that through your system. But if you're noticing a loop like that and you're just feeling like, man, I just want to stop feeling like that. I just want to stop telling myself this story, right? I just want to stop telling myself that things should have been different and I should have done this or they should have done that. And no one can ever, treat me like I'm supposed to be treated, or I can't ever find anyone that I really connect with, right? If you want to stop telling yourself that story, maybe there are some ways that you can tap into a sense of inner peace within yourself, or maybe you can start to connect more with stories that actually bring you a sense of peace, right? Is there a different way that you can talk about your situation or think about your situation that puts you at ease, right? And you might not have come across that yet, right? But if the more you start to pay attention, the more you attune to your inner world, the more you'll start to get a feel for that, right? So, with all that, I'm going to now shuffle up some quote cards. I have these cards. If you've been around here, you probably know about them. But if you're new here, I've created a bunch of cards that have quotes on the back of them and art on them that I made that I like to use to help get more information in reading sometimes. So that's what we're going to do today because they're fun. I enjoy using them. And I have so many, so I'm going to shuffle up a couple stacks. But let's get more information here. So why are we talking about this like development of internal validation? And why are we talking about the sense of inner peace and starting a new adventure? Okay. Okay. Just first things first, looking at this card with the mountains on it, I got the song The Mountain Is You by Chance Pena, I think. I'll link it. I hope I remember to link it in the description. It's a really good song. And so, yeah, I just got the song The Mountain Is You in my head, so that might have some messages here. I will probably talk a bit more about it once I get into the quotes. And then any additional quotes to further clarify this message. What further quotes? Is that too many? Yeah, we're going to take it. Okay, let me just put these cards off to the side because they're going to fall over. All right, there we go. Yeah. All right, well, we have kind of a lot of quotes to get through, but that's all good. We'll take it. Yeah, let's do it like this. They're all black and white except for this one, which has a little pink person holding up a heart. So that's interesting. Okay. So I guess we'll start with the first two that popped out over here. So I'm going to start by flipping over this one. These mountains and a starry sky. And then the quote says, "No matter the height of the mountain, the climbing is the same," from Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. So yeah, this is the quote that also I think of whenever I listen to the song The Mountain Is You, to be honest. So the fact that this came out and then I heard that song, yeah, it's no surprise. Yeah, no matter the height of the mountain, the climbing is the same. There's definitely something here about... Oh, okay, yeah. So sometimes... Okay, so speaking of internal versus external validation, there is a common... I don't want to call it a trend. A common narrative, we'll say, that... what is meant for you will find you, that there might be a certain situation or person or profession or career, work situation, whatever, that is meant for you. And I'm not even here to say, oh, that's not true, that's not how things work, because, like, first of all, who actually knows? But, like, for sure. But also, I feel like sometimes that narrative can get in the way, especially if you are someone who is prone to overthinking or who has some maybe some open wounds that you're working through within yourself, especially with regards to insecurities and needs for validation, right? So someone who is really going through a cycle where they're dealing with a lot of insecurities and they're working on healing that kind of thing, there might have been a tendency in the past to seek validation for, oh, okay, like, is this job the one? Is this person the one? Is this situation the one? You know, am I in the right place? Am I, you know, and constantly questioning yourself and constantly looking for someone else, something else to tell you, yes, this is it. You can trust yourself. You're good. And never really necessarily actually believing that or trusting that, because like, if you constantly need that validation, nothing's ever really going to fill that hole until you start to learn to see things in a different way, in a different perspective. And I feel like maybe a lot of us at this time, in some area of life or in general, are coming to the realization that at the end of the day, no matter what situation you're dealing with, the thing that's mostly in your way of believing in it and believing in you is you. So no matter you could go from relationship to relationship, person to person, but if the same situations keep popping up, if the same needs and issues keep going unmet or unaddressed or unhealed, if you have the same worries and anxieties cropping up, it might be less about finding the right person who won't bring all that up for you, and it might be more about addressing what it is within you that keeps hitting up against that wall, right? The mountain is you. The mountain that you are climbing is you. It's not to say that there's never any truth to the idea that there might be like certain people that are, some things might feel destined, might feel meant for you. It's not even to counter that necessarily, but I feel like there's a certain point at which that kind of thinking, that kind of focus is not helpful and can actively get in your way of actually seeing what it is within you that isn't allowing you to see what is actually meant for you and what's not, to feel that, because you've still got a lot of stuff in your way internally. So keeping with that idea, let's move on to the next quote. We have this open book here, and it says, "I was looking for a miracle, but I got a story instead, and sometimes those are the same thing." From All the Crooked Saints by Maggie Stiefvater. Yeah, so this speaks to what I was saying earlier about finding a story that brings you to a place of inner peace within yourself. And I've had this experience multiple times where I might have had something that happened in my past, or a situation that caused me a lot of inner turmoil, or a way of thinking about myself, maybe insecurities, that was just eating away at me. And when it got to a place where it was so loud I couldn't really ignore it anymore, there came a point where, and I'm a reader, I'm a big reader, and I love stories and I love storytelling, so for me this is very literal, but I especially at times in my life where I'm just like constantly reading, I'll come across a story that all of a sudden will just click something into place for me. So it might not be that one story is like the story that said it in the way that I most needed to hear it and no other stories had an impact, but it might be just that it was the story that got to me right at the perfect moment when my like old beliefs had been chipped down enough that this story was ready to like kick through the wall and be like, aha, here's a new perspective for you. Haha, let's kick that old insecurity or that old thought pattern or that old shame in the butt and let's get it out of here once and for all. And so that's happened multiple times in my life where I've come across a book or a TV show or some kind of art that spoke to something within me that I was deeply insecure about or ashamed of. And it helped me let go of, if not all of that, most of that feeling. It helped me see a new perspective. It helped me see, oh, someone else here knows this experience and can verbalize it and express it in a way that makes me see it in a new light, that helps me let go of some of the shame or some of the insecurity that I was holding onto within myself, right? Finding a story about someone who has gone through a similar situation or who has gone through something that you have also gone through, that helps you see that situation in a way that changes your relationship to it, that lets you release something about it. Maybe it makes you emotional. Maybe you cry, right? Maybe you finally let go of some guilt that you've been holding on to. And so that's where it's like that perfect sweet spot, that meeting point between your internal ability to see and validate yourself and your story and the external showing you that and creating the perfect environment in which for you to do that, right? So it's like, it's not about forcing someone else's story to make sense for you. It's not about forcing something to have meaning for you when you're not really feeling it. But it's also about being open to the experience that might actually be what happens for you. And so for a lot of us, maybe there might be some stories that there could be, in this case, because this is coming up as a collective reading, there could be some, maybe if there's been like a book or a show or something that keeps coming up for you that you've just been like, oh, like I'll get to it soon, I'll get to it eventually. Maybe now's the time to get to it, because it might have some information in there for you. It might tell a story for you that you've needed to hear for a long time that will help you validate yourself in some way and let go of the need for validation once and for all, because it will show you something. It will, in a way, it will be that validation for you, but in another way, you just might be ready to validate yourself through allowing yourself to have a deep emotional experience with this story, if that makes sense. So let's keep going with the quotes. So we have this card next with, I believe that my own morality, which answers only to my heart, is more sure and true than the morality of those who do right only because they fear retribution. This is from The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. Okay, so first of all, also, I want to say, so far, all of the stories that we have quotes from today have been ones that have done this in some way, shape, or form for me, that have given me that cathartic experience, that have given me that validation. And so, and I would say 99% of the time, like if I have a quote card here, it's because it's a story that's touched me deeply in some way and had that sort of cathartic experience for me. But The Way of Kings is one in particular that I was actually thinking of earlier when I thought of stories that did that for me and helped me let go of some shame and also see myself in a new perspective by reading a story where someone who went through a similar thing was seen with such a compassionate and respectful eye through the narrative that it allowed me to sort through my complex feelings of shame and allow that to lighten a little bit, to let it go. And in a way where I wasn't even honestly necessarily aware of how much I was still harboring around a certain topic. And it's just, I love that this quote came up too, because it's like we were really talking about the fine line between internal validation and external validation. And the truth of it is that when you allow yourself to be moved by works of art, and when you allow yourself to fully admit and live the emotion that a work of art is bringing up in you, it can be such a freeing experience because it gets you more in touch with your sense of inner truth. It allows you to release some of the internal storm to clear your landscape more and to get in touch with what is your own truth, your own morality, which answers only to your heart, which is more sure and true than the morality of those who do right only because they fear retribution. Yeah, and so for some of you, you might also like that's like also the idea of conditioning, right? Like there might be a lot in the collective right now about this conditioning of fear and guilt and morality, right? This conditioning of like, oh, this is moral and right, and this is how I should be, and this is how I should act. And if I don't act in that way, and if I don't meet those standards, then I should feel guilty and bad about myself because I'm a bad person. But if you're consistently feeling guilt and shame about yourself and feeling like you're making like the wrong decisions or that you're a bad person, then there might be something to look at in terms of, well, where's this coming from? Like, who taught you to feel this way, and what made you define X thing as good or X thing as bad? Are you even actually doing anything good or bad, or is it a persistent feeling of shame and guilt that is coming up within you that's more of an energy that you just keep experiencing and attributing to various things in your life, whether or not it makes actual sense too? And that's where, like, yeah, again, connecting with the stories that actually speak some truth into your heart will tell you when something is actually hitting with you as true, like you'll be able to face things that are difficult to face about yourself when it is said and presented to you in such a way that speaks truth to you. So even if it's difficult to face, you will be able to face it. So if you feel like you're being made to face a difficult truth that you cannot resolve within yourself, that doesn't just feel bad, but just like you can't, like it grates on you, like it doesn't mesh, it doesn't click in for you, then it just might not be for you. It might be someone just trying to make you feel bad, or it might be something that just happens to be rubbing up against a wound. That it might be the part of you that honestly wants to feel bad about yourself, looking for a reason to do so. Because there's that subtle difference between a truth that might be hard to hear and hard to accept about ourselves, but ultimately it's true, and the part of ourselves that thinks we should feel bad about ourselves and wants to feel bad about ourselves, so therefore looks for or tries to accept stories that tell us that we're bad or frame us in the worst light possible because we think that's how we're supposed to feel. And that could be a very subconscious thing, but it's a thing that I feel a lot of people deal with and experience. Let's start getting into these other cards now as well. We have this card here. I think it's really interesting that we have these kind of little stick figure. Yeah, there's so much happening when it comes to the aesthetics of these particular quote cards that came out. Like the fact that they're all so similar in coloring and some of the like themes and the imagery as well. I'm obsessed because if you haven't been here before, you might not know this, but my quote cards have all different kinds of, some of them are more abstract, some of them are very colorful. They're all very different. So when certain cards come out that look very similar, it's exciting because it's like, well, there's a reason for this, because they're all shuffled up too. So yeah, anyway, we have this card with these two people holding hands and the flowers in between them. And the quote says, "If we don't have each other, we don't have anything." This is from The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. Yeah. Okay. So this is a reminder that when we're seeking internal validation, when we're seeking to build up our reserves of inner peace and knowing, and to understand what is truly meant for us, and to not get caught up in taking on other people's stories and other people's ideas of right and wrong as our own, we don't want to forget connection with others, because it's not about disconnecting from others completely. It's not about isolating ourselves. It's not about rejecting the realities of other people or the stories of other people. It's really like we're walking like the fine line here between independence and codependence, interdependence, right? on with ourselves and the world around us. We are recognizing that having other people to exist alongside helps us give our lives meaning. It helps us sort through what truly feels like us and what truly doesn't. And it also gives us a fascinating perspective on all the different ways that there are to exist in this world that we can only have because we are us, but we can also only have because other people are other people, right? And so we're tapping into our fascination and our love of the differences that we see and experience between ourselves, and the marvel and the marveling at how even through our different experiences, they all loop back around to become the same experience, that someone who's very different from us can still validate our experience, can still have this resonance with us, right? When they speak or when they write a story or when they communicate about their experiences with us. That's so crazy cool, right? Yeah. And so it's possible for a lot of people listening to this, you might have gone through a time where you have cut yourself off a bit from other people because you were feeling overwhelmed by advice, and you were also trying to really get connected with your inner truth. And this is that acknowledgement, the acknowledgement of the wisdom in that, and the acknowledgement as well of the wisdom in reconnecting with other people, and in reconnecting with a sense of, okay, like when you have that trust within yourself, you can also trust yourself more deeply to interact with others, so that you can hold to your own truth when not because like you intellectually know what your truth is all the time, you might not, but you internally are connected with your sense of truth so that you can feel when something feels right and you can feel when it doesn't, even if it's just in the moment. You don't have to necessarily hold to one particular storyline or set of morals or beliefs that you've intellectualized and written out for yourself, but you know and are connected enough with your body, with your internal sense of knowing, with your intuition, with your soul, or what have you, that you can just kind of feel it. You kind of know. And so when you interact with another person, you can feel their truth, and you can feel when it speaks to you, when it doesn't speak to you, and you can marvel at that. You can enjoy that process because you don't feel like you're going to get lost in that other person's perspective that doesn't feel right for you, but because you're so connected with yourself. But then at the same time, you can also enjoy their company that much more, their truth that much more, their existence that much more, because it's just so fascinating to exist alongside this other person. And it's, in a way, this ability to, and I guess that's why the first example I gave when I started talking about whatever messages were coming through in this reading was about a relationship, because whether romantic or platonic or familial or neighborly or friendly or whatever, it's this feeling, this connection to our inner peace, this connection to our inner sense of truth and knowing, and our ability to validate our inner and individual experience without needing the validation of others. It's a different, finding validation in others and finding validation in stories and things outside of ourselves is different than needing it, right? It's different than begging for it, than needing someone else to understand you in a particular way. Because when you don't need that, you open yourself up to find it in all different kinds of ways, in all different kinds of places, without begging for it from a place that is just not going to give it to you, right? And that frees you up and other people up to be whatever they are and whoever they are and whoever you are and whatever you are in any given moment. And it helps you become more confident when you move through relationships with other people, because you know yourself, right? Yeah, and I feel like that's the journey that we're all on right now, and that's collectively, we're talking about it as a collective, because it's also something that, like, as I'm saying this, you know, there are some things where I'm saying things like they're very conclusive, but this is also something that is just a fascinating discussion, because I don't think it's a closed topic. I think there's like an infinite number of like layers that we can tap into when we talk about like the subtleties between independence and connection, between knowing your truth and feeling that truth and seeking the truth and your truth and someone else's. Like, there's so many different directions that conversation can go in, and so many different ways that we can discuss it on a philosophical level, on a spiritual level, just for fun, right? But I like to keep things grounded and practical in how we navigate this stuff in our everyday lives, because I know most of us are out here busy and and doing a lot of different things at any given moment, and you might not spend a lot of time philosophizing about these kinds of things. Now, that's why this kind of reading here is an opportunity for you to do so, to take some time to philosophize, because chances are if you're here, you're open to that sort of thing, you're interested in that sort of thing, and you're interested in discussing and reaching for conclusions that aren't necessarily tangible or easy to express, and might not also be so conclusive, right? It's like, we're on a constant journey towards our truth, but we might not always know what that is. Which kind of brings me back to the message of, like, you can feel it. Sometimes you can feel what's authentic. You can feel what's true. When you read a story or watch a story that really connects with you and you're ready to connect authentically on that level, it will be drawn out of you. The feelings will happen inside you. They will be undeniable. The experience of the characters will reflect back to you some truth about yourself that will help you either let something go or experience something in a new way or open up to a new perspective. And that might not be like your forever truth. You might not always have that experience when you engage with that story. It could be a one-time thing. It might not be if you reread it a lot, if you always have the same experience, but it might also just be like something you need to hear in that moment. That's true for you in that moment. And when you can tap into that feeling, you don't feel the need to create so many mental rules that you have to live by. You can flow with life in a more fluid way that is less dictated by by doctrine, by people telling you that you gotta, I don't know, wake up at 5 a.m. every day and do this and do that and do that, and that's the only way to be happy, right? It's like, if you want to do that and that makes you happy, do it, right? But it's not about holding yourself to a set of rules because you think that's the way to do it and then beating yourself up because maybe that was your truth for like a couple years, but it's not your truth anymore. Or maybe it was never your truth, but someone else told you it should be, and so you tried to make it such. No, you're so in touch with yourself. You trust yourself. You don't need someone else to tell you, yeah, it's okay to be that way. Yeah, it's okay to do that. Yeah, it's okay to feel that way. It's like, no. You know yourself enough to be able to be honest with yourself and to validate yourself. Yeah. So you're not looking for someone to say, yes, you are right. Yes, you are okay. Yes, this is good. But you are rather open to things that come across and people that come across your energetic field, your experience, that reflect something back to you that feels honest and true. You don't beg for it, but it's always there. It just appears. It shows you at the right moment what you need to see or hear. So let's keep going. Let's move on to this card here. Oh, a surprise extra card. Wow, okay. You know what? I think I had noticed that before and I just didn't realize it got stuck on the back of this one. Okay, fine. We'll work with that. Let's move on to this card first, though. And this says, Celtic mysticism recognizes that rather than trying to expose the soul or offer it our fragile care, we should let the soul find us and care for us. From Anam Cara by John O'Donohue, beautiful book of Celtic wisdom. I love this because, yeah, basically it's like, okay, I don't know. Let me do it like this. Okay. Because, yeah, it's basically like, yes, okay, because we're not forcing anything here. Some of you might really appreciate, I recently did a pick a card reading, time of recording, I did a pick a card reading right before this one, which is what is your soul most excited about in your life right now? And it's one that's intended to get you more in touch with your soul, and you may have an experience with connecting with your soul. You may feel like you're very connected with it, or you might not even really understand what a soul is or if it even exists. But you might benefit if this reading is speaking to you right now and you want to feel more in touch with your inner wisdom, your inner peace, your inner truth. I mean, what is your soul if not an encapsulation of that, right? It's like your soul it's like the idea of it's you at your most authentic and truest, and also possibly bigger than you and your experience, right? It contains you and your experience right now. And so that's why it doesn't, personally, and I'm not here to say this is the truth of reality, but this is based on my personal truth of experience right now, right? Whenever I come across media that sort of treats the soul as if it's like an internal ghost or something that can be withered away, something that can be blackened or killed, it doesn't resonate with me because that's not what I experience the soul as. To me, the soul, like this quote implies, is something that's actually bigger than just the limited present moment experience that I might be having. It's me, but it's like me but bigger, me but expansive, me but encapsulating all of experience, right? And so it's something that can't be touched by anything that happens in the physical realm. It's something that can't really be, it's constantly changing and expanding, and yet it also can't be changed at the same time. It's a paradox in and of itself. And so to me, it makes more sense for the soul to be something that cares for me, cares for us, cares for the individual, rather than something that we care for, that we tend to. We might care for our connection with our soul. We might set the intention to nurture that which speaks to our soul, but we are not the ones who are cultivating our soul so much as we are inviting the soul more into our everyday experience and asking it to show us the way, asking it to show us, reveal itself to us, and allowing it to care for us. Yeah, right. And so that goes back to the inner reserves of peace and happiness and truth is that's what you feel when you're most connected to your soul. And I would argue that the Fool could also be a representative of the soul itself, right? This innocence yet wisdom at the same time, this excitement for adventure, this willingness to experience whatever it is that comes up on its path, because for the sake of the experience, the sake of learning, the sake of curiosity and excitement. There's a lot of curiosity in the Fool. I feel like the soul is at once a childish and yet extremely wise, non-physical aspect of us, right? And so it's almost like getting in touch with your inner self is getting in touch with your soul, which is represented by the Fool here, right? The part of you that is infinitely excited about life and about adventure. Yeah. And so we're being asked right now as a collective to connect more with our soul, which is so funny because like this is actually a really synchronistic reading with some things that I've just stumbled into the past even like week or so, where there have been practices that have just come up for me, not with me even intending for them to. Like I am part of a group where we're going through the artist way. So one might think of the artist way, which is a sort of spiritual exploration that gets you in touch with your inner creative and helps you undo some conditioning that you might have around being an artist and being a creative person. And so that in and of itself can be a reconnection with your soul, especially if you see creativity as an expression of your soul. But even in this group that we have been a part of, that we did an exercise last night that was specifically about getting in touch with our soul in order to achieve a certain goal that we have for ourselves, and to let our soul guide us in terms of how we do that, and to trust that without it needing to make sense to our minds. And so it's funny that this is coming up in this reading today, because that's been happening for me without me even trying to. Even the last reading that I did, which is like your soul's greatest excitement, that just came to me and felt exciting. And I was like, my mind was like, but do you even want to like touch that? Because like, you know, like, I don't know what the soul, what is that even? But it's kind of more of a feeling and experience than something that you can really explain or express, right? And that's kind of why I was like, I don't know, do I want to do that reading? But like inside of me, I felt excited about it. And that felt like, you know, my connection to my soul. And so even though I haven't actually thought about, I've used terms like higher self, and I've connected more with like spirit guides and angels in other readings. I haven't really touched the soul, but that's been coming up a lot for me lately. And I feel like that's a collective, and this is timeless, so collective for anyone who's watching and engaging with this and who's resonating with this. It can be finding you at any time in your life and any time between when I've released it and whenever you're listening to it. But like, this is a collective theme that we're experiencing of connecting with the soul. What does that feel like to us? What, you know, when you feel something in your soul, even if you don't know what a soul is, you know what that feeling is, right? Like, you've had that feeling. Like, I feel it in my bones. I feel it deep within. Like, there's something that speaks to my soul. There's something that moved me deeply. That's like you connecting with your soul in that moment, right? And we're all being called to do that, but we're also being called to not force it, but to invite it in, to allow it, and to be open to the experience. And when it comes into our life, we call a spade. We say, oh, that touched me deeply. That touched my soul. That felt true and right. That was something that connected with my soul. That was a truth that shows me more of my true essence, right? Oh, that's cool. So yeah, and trusting that that's something that is not something that can be killed or tainted, or you can feel disconnected from it. You can feel like you're not sure what it is, but it's something that you can never really be separated from, and it's not something that can be taken away from you. It's something that's always with you, and you can always tap into and invite into your experience. And that's what we're doing right now, is we're getting more in touch with our soul. Oh, that's so exciting. Okay, so we've got a couple more cards here, so let's get to them. So first we have this with the multicolored hearts. So lots of hearts happening over here in this little corner. Oh, actually here. Yeah. So there's, yeah. So again, with the 5 of discs and this guy having like heart chakra might be a good place to connect with your soul, like connecting with your heart. Might be a good place to start if you're not sure where else to start. If you want to do like a heart chakra meditation or just like breathe through your heart, connect with your heart space, think about things that make you feel happy in your heart or make you feel, right? That is the window to your soul. So let's read this quote now. It says, "In the kingdom of love, there is no competition, there is no possessiveness or control. The more love you give away, the more love you will have." Also from Anam Cara by John O'Donohue, so that's from the same book as this. Yeah, all of these books have touched me deeply in my soul, actually. Like I said before that probably all of the ones that I've made quotes for have, but I can think of specific moments and specific elements of each story or book that's come up right now that was particularly moving to me at a time of my life when I needed to hear something that the book had to offer, right? And I stumbled into it. I didn't go into it expecting that this book is going to tell me something that I need to hear, although sometimes you could just kind of sense it. But mostly I didn't go into it with that expectation. It just did. But yeah, in the kingdom of love, there is no competition, there is no possessiveness or control. The more love you give away, the more love you will have. Which speaks back to how we sort of began this reading talking about the example of, a relationship, and how we talked earlier about the experience of connecting with your inner truth and your inner self, which we can now call your soul. Connecting with your soul, which has unlimited reserves of love and potential and security and happiness and anything that we could want. Connecting with that means that we don't feel the need to seek it from other people, but we also will be more able to connect with that aspect of other people and also of the things that we encounter. The experience that just came to me as well is the one of, sometimes I encounter a piece of writing or a story that it's like I can feel, I might be tempted to say, oh, well, it's really well written. It explores certain themes really well. It does this and that's why I like it. It does that and that's why I like it. But underneath it all, it's usually more about some kind of sense of connection that I feel that I can't always explain logically, but I just feel that it's there. And I can't necessarily justify it on an intellectual level, but I don't need to, because in the kingdom of love, when I love something and connect with it deeply, there is no control. There's no possessiveness. The more love you give away, the more that you will have, in the sense of like, you don't need to analyze or explain your love. It just is. Again, not needing to validate. Not only not needing to seek validation from others outside of you, not needing to try to validate yourself to other people or to anything or to the world or to yourself even. You don't need to validate yourself. You are inherently valid. It's more about reaching into whatever part of the experience that you're having is truest to you underneath the language and the impressions and the conditioning that might have covered up why the experience is actually speaking to you, what is actually like really why you're actually connecting with this person or this experience, on what level you're connecting with this person or this experience. So like there are some things where I'm like, I'm reading this or I'm watching this and I can feel the soul, I can feel the heart, I can feel that people really loved what they were creating when they created it, or I can feel a deeper message coming through. And sometimes I don't feel that as much when I engage with certain things. Like sometimes I feel like I read something and I'm like, it's okay, but there's no soul in it. I don't feel the soul. And now that doesn't mean that there isn't any, but it might mean that at least at this time, the level that the frequency that it's at, or some aspects of it that are expressing to me right now are not reaching my soul. It's not there for me. And I don't need to justify that or validate that either. I don't need to put it down. I don't need to say, oh, this sucks. I I can just leave it and just be like, that didn't connect with me, and move on, right? And we can do that with people. We can do that with situations as well. It can be difficult because we often want to find stories to validate our feelings. We want to find reasons that other people will understand to explain why we do the things that we do. But all of those are just, like, they're just excuses to make other people more comfortable, or to make ourselves more comfortable with our true nature. But we don't need those. And if we let go of the need to immediately explain ourselves or explain away a feeling or a vibe, then we might actually be able to tap into something that feels truer, because there might be a way to express with words what we're feeling, or why this didn't resonate or why that does resonate. There might actually be something we can tap into that feels true on a deeper level if we give it the time to be revealed to us, as opposed to jumping to whatever excuse or reasoning that we're used to using, because we don't want anyone else to either feel bad or not understand us, or to question us. Because it's like, at the end of the day, you might do that for fun, but it's irrelevant to the truth of your actual existence and experience. And then last but not least, we do have this card I want to get to before I go on and on and on. I didn't really explain that quote, by the way. I'll come back to it, but I want to get to this card first. It says, "You promise me I'll be happy?" And the response is, "No, but I can promise you, you will never be alone." And this is from Russian Doll. So, spoilers. That's a show that really, really touched me. If you haven't watched the show, don't think too hard about that. Just watch the show. And yeah, the context of that quote we won't get into, because I think if you want to watch that show, you shouldn't have spoilers. But, yeah. And I feel like that is the message from all of our souls to us, in terms of, we are never alone. So even when we're unhappy, our soul is with us. Even when we're unhappy and scared and disconnected, the true essence of who we are never really leaves us. And we can always call on it for comfort. We can always call on it to care for us. And I feel like this quote here about from Anamkara by John O'Donohue, "In the kingdom of love, there is no competition, there is no possessiveness or control. The more love you give away, the more love you will have." I feel like that's where our souls live all the time, in that unconditional love. So you will not be taking anything from your soul by experiencing unhappiness. I feel like on a certain level, everything that you experience is valuable to your true essence. Your true essence is just excited by experience. That's why this fool can go into this world of many different varied experiences, and if you believe in the concept that we are souls that reincarnate again and again and again, that your soul can do this again and again and again, make that choice. Because personally, I know there's a lot of different ways to believe in, what we are outside of this physical experience. I feel more in my soul that the truth is that we choose, if this is some version of the truth at least, because I leave some room for the mystery of what experience and reality actually is. But if on some level we are souls that incarnate in a physical reality for a limited amount of time, I believe that we choose to do so, and that we choose to do so in all different shapes and forms and ways. And I believe that we have free will to choose experience, not because we have to work off some karma, not because we have anything that we have to feel guilty about, but rather because we love experience, because we want to experience things. Because once we experience one side of one conflict, we might want to experience the other side of that conflict. And maybe that's really all karma is your soul being like, okay, well, I was on one side of this situation, and now in my next life, I want to see what it was like to be on the other side of that situation. And listen, I know that might not speak to everyone, but it's really about connecting with your own soul and your own truth, right? So I can offer you my own story and version of existence, and based on things that resonate with me, and you can understand whether or not that resonates with you, and take that and and use that to get closer to who you truly are, and to connect with who I might be on some level, and allow those two things to exist side by side, even if they're not the same. And that's another thing with Russian Doll here, because the you promise me I'll be happy. No, but I can promise you will never be alone. It's also the idea that we're all in this together. It's not just you and your soul against the rest of the world. It's all of us in this together. And we might not all be happy all the time. And we might not all be living lives that we can fully understand. And we might not understand our neighbor, the people next to us, the people living alongside us all the time. But we are in it together. We're always with each other. We are never alone. And we can love each other from the perspective of, I don't need to always understand you. You don't need to always be happy or make me happy in order for me to stick by your side, to be there for you, to be with you, and to allow you your freedom to experience life as you want to experience it, no matter if I understand it or approve of it or not. And in doing that for other people, we can do that for ourselves. And in doing it for ourselves, we can do that for other people. Yes. And that's and that's that idea of kind of returning to oneness, is coming back to a space where you start to understand reality and experience as one perfect whole, one perfect complete entity, rather than just a bunch of separate little experiences that had nothing to do with one another. It's no, you start to see the puzzle pieces come back together. And to be honest, bringing it back around to stories and how they can be miracles for us, that's why I've had times in my life where I've just read book after book and they've all been completely different. Some might have been self-help, some might have been science fiction, some might have been fantasy, some might have been romance, but I could see the connections between the themes and the stories and the characters and feel something within me that knew and understood how these stories were all connected. The sameness, the oneness of reality was coming through. I could see that in every story I read, in every book I read. It was there's something underneath all of this that is the truth, that is one and the same. But it's not something I can quantify or talk about in any concrete way. It's just something I can feel and experience and see. I'm reading this, and it's been a while since I've really tapped into that experience, because I've been focused on other things for a bit. But it was really fun to just experience, wow, this story is the same as the other story, is the same as the other story, and yet they're all very different stories, and yet I can feel the oneness of the universe bubbling up through the words and the experiences of the characters. It's we are all different, but we are also all the same. We are all different, but we are also part of one. It's crazy when you can experience that. And all of these books actually kind of, except for The Outsiders, and maybe Crooked Kingdom, the rest of the books in the show that are referenced here kind of I read all around the same time and were part of that experience. And even if I went back to these other stories, I'm sure I would find that they fit into that experience as well. Oh man, and that's why you can find yourself in any kind of story, in any kind of book, if you're really attuned to yourself. You can find the parts of it that resonate and that speak true, and you can just feel it, and you just know it. And I feel it's hard to say, because when I'm in the midst of this and I'm speaking on all these things, I feel like what I'm saying makes sense on some level, but doesn't make sense on another level. So I just kind of have to trust that people who are watching will largely be on the same page. We'll be able to pick up what I'm putting down, and we'll do so through their own lens and with their own intuition. And that there's something energetic and beyond just my words and beyond just what the cards say, that is being conveyed, that none of us might actually be able to clarify, but we're still picking it up, it's still getting in there. So that's what I have to trust. But I would be fascinated to know if any of you have your own intuitions that came through during this reading, if any of you are familiar with the experience that I spoke about of like sort of like experiencing the oneness of the universe through either like reading or anything else that you engage in, or just through like your own meditative experiences and things like that. And if you guys have any thoughts on like the sort of difficult to verbalize experience that we were talking about largely in this reading with regards to connecting with your soul and your inner sense of truth and validation, and then also also connecting with others on that soul level. And yeah, because I don't know, I feel like we didn't really reach like a lot of like conclusions here, but we opened up a lot of interesting conversations, and I do feel like there's a lot of important wisdom that each of these quotes helps convey that I feel it can apply to many different points of life, and might have given you a similar experience to mine of connecting seemingly separate things into one. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed this reading. I kind of want to just conclude it with one last thing, like just to tie it up in hopefully a neat little bow. So I'm gonna pull a Rumi card because I haven't done that in a while, and I have these little Rumi cards that may or may not make sense, but we're gonna trust that because the universe and experience is perfect the way it is, and we are all one, and so everything that happens is part of that perfect experience. Whatever Rumi card will come out will be exactly what we need to close this out. So let's see. What is the best? Yeah, okay, we'll go with that. So this says, and Rumi, I think, was some kind of poet. Forgive me, those of you who know more about Rumi than I do. But the quote that we have is, "If the storm remains still, the universe would not be set in motion. It is the mysterious flow that moves the world in all directions." Ooh. If the storm remains still, the universe would not be set in motion. It is the mysterious flow that moves the world in all directions. Which brings me back to when I gave the visual of like your inner world being clouded sometimes by storms, by emotions that sort of cover up your truth and cover up your connection at times to your authenticity, and yet those storms are also part of your experience. They're also important. They're part of that oneness, right? And the idea that we are all different and experiencing difference, because without it we wouldn't have experience, and so that inherently gives the meaning, gives us enough individuation to be able to witness people as other from ourselves. Oh my god, ooh, it's too it's too much. So yeah, that's what Rumi is speaking to here. If the storm remains still, the universe would not be set in motion. It is the mysterious flow that moves the world in all directions. Yes, and the idea that we don't always have to know where things are going or how things are moving. We don't have to have a mental intellectual understanding of the world or a mental intellectual doctrine to lead us through the world. As long as we are connected to our soul, to the truth of our heart, to the truth of ourselves, to the truth of the universe, and we can feel that, then we can see everything else, any story that we could tell, any intellectual proposition that we can make as a passing storm or a passing interpretation or representation of something we're experiencing, but not the whole truth. Just something that's moving us closer to the truth or moving us beyond or expanding us, right? We're constantly in motion, so we don't have to come to a concrete conclusion that is true for the rest of our lives. Even our authentic truth and who we are will not remain the same for the rest of our lives, even as it remains the same, because we are always what we are. Oh, we're working on so many paradoxes today. Oh, okay. Yes, so I hope you got something from that. I hope that unlocked something within you, or at the very least gave you something really interesting to contemplate, to ponder, to think about. As I was saying before, please leave your own takes in the comments. Anything that came up for you during this reading in the comments, I would love to hear about it. Please like, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, all the things. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this engaging and really interesting. And I hope we can take conversations like this further and just continue expanding on these ideas. And if there's anything that you feel like I missed or that you want to elaborate on, please, like, especially when it comes to like the quotes and things like that, like I would love to hear about it. So yeah, thanks again for watching. I will see you in another reading again sometime very soon. Bye.